I said Meghan Markle is, of course, a lifelong feminist, which she's demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job.
What I discovered that she was hunting for a man in England. She wanted wealth and she wanted fame, and she targeted Harry.
And this was the most savage dick yet. I mean, they actually call her a dick. Watch this.
Yeah.
Okay. King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American
I tried so hard. Did you like it?
I'm almost speechless.
$200 million, 2 studios, and a Hollywood comeback that the whole world was promised.
The title of her show, Love Meghan. For what? To watch? Who wants to watch Meghan Markle bake a pie?
And it was presented as a major return to the entertainment industry, a project expected to make headlines and capture global attention. The anticipation was enormous, with many believing it would mark the beginning of a powerful new chapter in Hollywood.
Gosh, I worked so hard.
Shut the bitch. You're idiot.
And there was a show that ended the year ranked at number 383. Not number 3, but number 383. Far from being a breakthrough success, it finished well down the rankings, a result that stood in sharp contrast to the high expectations and bold promises that had surrounded it from the beginning.
Yeah, they were very worried about their safety, which I get that aspect of things. After 6 episodes, I wanted to attack them.
That's the woman the comedians had been waiting for. She quickly became a favorite target for jokes and satire, with late-night hosts, commentators, and comedians seizing every opportunity to turn the controversy surrounding her into punchlines and viral moments.
Meghan Markle was there, who's a huge celebrity.
Yeah, you guys love suits.
Specifically, Prince Harry loves suits.
Yeah.
He used it like Tinder.
The most brutal line of the entire saga comes right at the end, delivered by a woman who knew Harry personally. Stay with me for that moment. He wasn't even telling a joke. He was simply reading from her record, and that alone was enough to draw laughter. After that, the rest of the comedians sensed an opportunity and joined in. What followed became one of the most talked about and relentless waves of public mockery in the whole story.
Prince William or Prince Harry?
Prince William or Prince Harry? Well, the royal family, right, if you can imagine, they're like our Kardashians. Prince Harry is very much our Kanye. He occasionally dresses as a Nazi, and he fucked up.
Here's the thing about Carr. He doesn't do anger. He delivers the most brutal remarks imaginable in the calm, matter-of-fact tone of someone reading a shopping list. That understated style is what makes his jokes hit so hard. The contrast between his expressionless delivery and the sharpness of the punchline often makes the impact even stronger.
Harry and Meghan say they'd now like to split their time between spending your money in the UK and spending your money in Canada.
One sentence, and suddenly the whole circus seems to make sense. This isn't a monarchy anymore. It's a reality show with better hats. In just a few words, the remark captures the growing perception that royal drama, public feuds, and media attention have begun to overshadow the tradition and dignity that once defined the institution.
Donald Trump has had enough of them. He's privately savaged Prince Harry during King Charles's visit to America. Trump remarked to a British visitor when the conversation turned to Harry, "Can you take him back?" Everyone is fed up with the grifters. I mean, Trump has clearly had enough of the woe is me, ginger and whinger.
Did you like it?
I'm gonna come.
Spending your money, not theirs yours. That was the spark that lit the fire. Criticism intensified the moment people felt they were the ones footing the bill, turning what had been celebrity gossip and royal drama into a much more personal issue. Once the conversation shifted to public money and accountability, the controversy gained a whole new level of attention and emotion.
We love American telly. My brother's fiancée, Miss Meghan Markle, is on the American program Suits.
Yes, Wednesdays, 8 p.m, USA Network. Check it out. She's amazing in it. Yeah?
Right. The only difference between that show and this is people watch this one.
Oh, hilarious.
You can survive a lot in Hollywood. Scandals, criticism, and even major setbacks can be overcome. The one thing that is truly difficult to survive is the quiet, persistent verdict that you were never as talented or impressive as people believed. And unfortunately, that seems to be the judgment that keeps resurfacing. Time and again, Critics and commentators returned to the same conclusion, making it one of the most damaging narratives to shake off.
I know who Kate Middleton is.
Beautiful woman.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Great mum. Whenever the kids are being fussy and not going to bed, she puts on an episode of Suits and they're out. So.
What are you doing? Ow!
Stop it! Stop it!
Just give him a wet willy?
Yes, in England it's called a moist Matthew.
People watched this one, and that was them being polite. In reality, the reaction was far harsher than anyone wanted to admit. What was meant to impress instead raised more questions, and the audience wasn't buying the story being sold. The polite response was simply watching and moving on, but beneath the surface, skepticism was already growing.
The intention of the show was to share more of myself.
You keep saying Meghan Markle, you know I'm Sussex now.
To share tips that I love in my life.
When nature has given you all the cues on how to have a perfect taste of something.
Oh, how fun is that? I love it.
I appreciate what hard work looks like. I like working hard.
But here's the part she can't sue, can't spin, and can't delete. She got the comeback. She got the platforms that every actress in Los Angeles would dream of having. Opportunities that most people spend their entire careers chasing were handed to her. And yet, the real question remains, what did she actually do with them? The spotlight was there, the attention was there, and the audience was watching. In the end, the results speak louder than any publicity campaign ever could.
This woman is being paid millions of dollars to show how to cut into a pineapple.
How bad that trailer, that seems like the worst show that I've ever heard of.
I love a bad watch. I love a good bad watch. This is not that. This is really grueling to get through.
Yeah. The big Netflix show launched in 2025 to reviews so cold you could store meat behind them. Critics gave it just 36%, and the audience response was even worse. What was supposed to be a major success quickly became a disappointment, with both reviewers and viewers showing little enthusiasm for the project.
My look. She likes my look.
Your fashion is like one of my favorite things.
It's the biggest piece of dog
It didn't even crack Netflix's top 300 shows of the year, limping in at number 383. Season 2 performed even worse, arriving with less impact and generating even less excitement than the first. For a project that was expected to be a major success, the results were surprisingly underwhelming. Funny how that turned out.
Your millions from Netflix for no one knows what.
Put it with the rest of them.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. And that's just by Netflix.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
And then there was the multi-million-dollar Netflix deal that was supposed to cement their status and crown them as Hollywood royalty. Instead, it quietly faded away without renewal, adding another setback to a growing list of disappointments. For a partnership once promoted as a game-changing success story, the outcome was remarkably underwhelming. At this point, the contrast between the grand promises and the actual results is so striking that it almost sounds unbelievable. You couldn't make it up.
Meghan Markle, the only thing she found was a rich, famous husband.
The nearest thing Meghan Markle ever had to a billion-dollar idea was marrying a prince.
Millions were spent, yet there was little to show for it in the end. The investment was enormous, but the results failed to justify the cost, making it seem as though all that money was paid for virtually nothing. That's a point worth remembering.
I'm going to pose this question to you. You do a lot of business deals, a lot of negotiations.
I do?
Well, let's just
I wish I had been involved in the Meghan and Harry leave Spotify negotiation. The grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them. I got to get drunk.
Grifter.
Then came Spotify. After just one series and 12 episodes, the partnership was over. The ending was anything but subtle, and the executive on the other side didn't bother dressing up the situation with polite language. The message was clear. Expectations had not been met, and the relationship came to an abrupt end.
Sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim. Yeah, that's totally me.
The criticism became even more striking when the word grifters was used by a man whose own company had signed the check in the first place. It was a remarkably blunt assessment, highlighting just how disappointed some insiders had become after investing significant resources and expecting far better results.
We want privacy! We want privacy!
One word has followed this pair for years like a shadow they can never quite escape: privacy. Time and again, the message was the same: we want privacy. Yet the constant public appearances, interviews, and media projects left many people questioning whether their actions truly matched that goal, turning the issue into one of the most debated aspects of their public image.
Well, I just think some people might say that your Instagram-loving twife actually doesn't want her privacy. How dare you, sir? My Instagram-loving twife has always wanted her privacy. And you know what else? To hell with Canada. We are leaving. We'll go find some quiet place where we can be normal people. Come on, wife.
They left, or at least that's the story that was presented, to escape the spotlight and be left alone. Yet not long afterward, cameras were invited in, and much of their journey was documented and shared with the public. To critics, the contrast was hard to ignore, raising questions about whether the desire for privacy truly aligned with the decision to film and reveal so much of their lives.
In California, we're just a regular couple living close to Oprah and far from the paparazzi. But not too far.
It was compared to a man demanding privacy while shouting through a megaphone, a contradiction that many critics found impossible to ignore. In just 90 seconds, South Park delivered a satire that, for some viewers, captured the issue more effectively than countless opinion columns ever could, turning a complex public debate into a simple and memorable joke.
The best way to have a snack is to take the snack out of one bag and then move them into another bag and then label this new bag, even though this bag already has a label on it. Tap water!
Far from the paparazzi, but never quite out of sight. In just 5 words, critics felt it summed up the entire act: a desire to appear removed from the spotlight while still remaining close enough to benefit from the attention. The phrase became a concise way of describing what many saw as a contradiction between the message being presented and the actions that followed.
Meghan Markle has finally revealed why she and Prince Harry call each other M and H. What could it be? A mystery for the ages.
I said H was H, H was at the H has been, H is, and H called me with H, and H was out, and with H.
The criticism isn't that she did anything criminal or outrageous. Rather, it's that she often presents completely ordinary actions and experiences as though they are groundbreaking revelations. To her critics, everyday events are sometimes framed with such significance that they seem to be treated like major achievements, creating a disconnect between the reality of the situation and the way it is being presented.
They want it both ways. You know, you can't be, these people were so mean to us and poor us, and we don't want all this attention, and then let me write a book about how much we don't want attention.
Then the comedian and commentator Bill Maher pointed to what he saw as the central contradiction behind the entire campaign. His remarks focused on the gap between the public message being promoted and the actions that seemed to undermine it, highlighting an inconsistency that critics had been discussing for years.
Oh my God, that hat. Oh God, he's so hot. Look at him. Isn't Prince Harry? She bagged a fox.
Critics seized on what they viewed as an obvious irony. A whole book devoted to explaining a desire for privacy and a quieter life, yet released through one of the most public platforms possible. The sarcastic remark, available now wherever grievances are sold, captured their skepticism, suggesting that personal complaints had been turned into a marketable product. To them, the contradiction was striking, and the audacity of it was almost impossible to ignore.
I think he's a twat. He's a whining, whinging, complaining, woe is me, I'm the only one that's ever had mental problems. Like, my life was so hard. Everybody's life is hard.
It was beneath the branding, beneath the privacy campaign, that many comedians and commentators claimed to hear the same recurring theme: grievance. In their view, nearly every public appearance, interview, or project seemed to circle back to feelings of being wronged. Critics argued that this sense of victimhood became the defining note of the narrative, a theme revisited so often that it overshadowed everything else. Kelly Osbourne echoed that criticism bluntly, returning to the issue with characteristic force and arguing that the focus on past complaints had become impossible to ignore.
I watched the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. But now I've actually heard their side of the story, I hate them.
The point being made was simple. Everyone faces struggles, setbacks, and difficult circumstances. What made the comment stand out was that it came from someone well-known and influential enough to say it publicly without much hesitation. To supporters, it was a reminder that hardship is a universal experience. To critics, it was a direct challenge to narratives that place too much emphasis on personal grievances while overlooking the challenges faced by others.
I don't think they will change because I don't think they have the capacity to, but they obviously should. The one person who I think has been really happy about all of this is Prince Andrew. I'm guessing that he has been nudging the royal family. Can you believe what Meghan did, huh? Can you believe it? Dragging this family's name into disrepute, shaming us.
Even John Oliver, hardly someone known for right-wing criticism, was seen by some observers as becoming less enthusiastic over time. That stood out because he was not the kind of commentator critics could easily dismiss as hostile from the start. And then there was the American public, the audience many expected would embrace her wholeheartedly. Yet as time went on, the reaction appeared far more mixed than supporters had anticipated, with admiration increasingly competing with skepticism and fatigue.
Clearly, Prince Harry and Meghan, we don't give a f***. America don't give a about you.
A lot of people care. They got a Netflix
We never
show.
cared about nothing that had to do with y'all. We do not give a f***. We don't care.
Baby fake.
And this is where many critics say their patience runs out. In their view, being a victim is not a personality trait, nor is it something that can sustain a career indefinitely. They argue that few people are ever given such an extraordinary platform: status, wealth, public sympathy, and a global audience willing to support them. Yet despite those advantages, the narrative often seems to return to the same theme: how difficult everything has been. To these critics, the frustration lies not in acknowledging challenges, but in repeatedly making hardship the central story when so many opportunities were available to tell a different one.
She does not have friends. She does not care about other human beings. She only wants power. And the only way that she feels that she can get it is by leveraging her relationships with certain people. That's not friendships.
At that point, critics argue, the comments stop sounding like a simple roast or a passing joke. Instead, they begin to resemble a broader judgment about a public image that has become defined by the same recurring themes. What started as satire evolves into an assessment of how the public perceives the pattern itself, with the criticism becoming less about individual incidents and more about the reputation that has formed around them.
Look at that face. She's not happy.
Oh, yeah, it's so hard to be pretty. So your life is so hard. You're a princess.
This was the topic that many major public figures seemed reluctant to address directly. Most kept their distance from it, but one prominent comedian chose a different approach. Taking the stage on a Netflix special, he tackled what many considered the most sensitive and untouchable storyline surrounding the entire saga. Rather than avoiding the controversy, he dissected it point by point, using humor to challenge assumptions and question the narrative in front of a massive audience.
Everybody trying to be a victim. Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Seemed like a nice lady, just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light skin lottery and still going on complaining? Acting all dumb like she don't know nothing. Going on Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google these motherfuckers?
I'm not here to tell you what conclusion to draw from it, and these aren't my words anyway. The point being made is that the criticism is coming from comedians, commentators, and public figures who have voiced their own opinions on the matter. Whether you agree with them or not is entirely up to you, but their remarks have become part of the wider public conversation surrounding the story.
They're so racist, they're so racist. Some of the shit she went through was not racism. It was just some in-law shit. Because she's complaining, I'm like, what the she talking about? No, they're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist, because even black people want to know.
The argument being made is that when a highly respected comedian turns a widely discussed grievance into the subject of a joke, it can signal a shift in public perception. At that point, critics contend that the narrative is no longer being treated with the same seriousness it once was. Once an audience begins responding with laughter rather than sympathy, it becomes far more difficult to regain the emotional ground that has been lost. The comedian then moved beyond the jokes and focused on a broader point. Setting aside the punchlines for a moment, he approached the issue from a historical perspective and posed a simple question. One that, in his view, cut to the heart of the debate and challenged the assumptions behind the entire discussion.
Do Mark Zuckerberg, Wallace Simpson, and Adolf Hitler all have in common?
Wallace Simpson, the American divorcee whose romance with a king
He then drew a historical comparison to Wallace Simpson, the American divorcee whose relationship with Edward VIII led to one of the most dramatic crises in modern royal history. Their romance ultimately resulted in the king's abdication, a decision that shook the monarchy and sparked intense public and political controversy. For decades, many critics viewed Wallace Simpson as a divisive figure who had played a central role in a constitutional crisis that threatened the stability and reputation of the royal institution.
Simpson, she was a divorced American lady and she caused the king to abdicate because he wanted to be with her. Do you remember?
So she's like vintage Meghan, old school Meghan.
That's a great way to describe Wallace Simpson. She's the original Meghan Markle.
Okay.
The original Meghan Markle, 80 years earlier. Suddenly, it doesn't look like a modern story at all. It looks like a pattern the palace has seen before, and apparently never learned from. But how does a grown man, a prince, a soldier, end up being so thoroughly influenced and steered? Jimmy Carr had a theory, one that was both gentle and devastating in its simplicity.
No more following Granny's rules. Don't wear your pants on your head, Harry. Don't bath on the butler, Harry. If I want to play polo in my living room, who's gonna stop me?
Stop that.
Right away, Megs.
Harry spent most of his life with every major decision filtered through the royal family. According to this view, when he finally stepped away from that system, he didn't become fully independent. He simply handed that influence to someone else. That's why critics often draw comparisons that those in Montecito would rather avoid. The contrast with his brother, Prince William. The comparison is used to highlight the different paths the two brothers have taken since Harry left royal life behind.
We know what that means.
That's LA. She wants to be famous. She found the guy to make her the most famous in the world, and now she's over there and she's like, if she didn't marry him, she would be on The Bachelor this season. She would be Megan M. from Sherman Oaks barista. She's just that lucky.
Even Carr softens when the subject turns to one brother. The comedian, often described as one of Britain's sharpest and most ruthless joke-makers, seems to have a warm, almost affectionate story for one sibling, while finding enough material in the other to fill an entire comedy special. The contrast is hard to miss, and it says as much about public perception as it does about the brothers themselves.
I just think the proof is in the pudding, in the sense you've been handed the world and every major contract, you had podcasts, you have all of this, and you didn't deliver because you...
There's nothing to deliver.
Yeah, because you don't have it.
No. So here it is, the line I promised you. And it didn't come from a comedy stage at all. It came from a podcast featuring Kelly Osbourne, someone who moved in those circles, knew Harry personally, and had every reason to be charitable in her assessment. Yet she wasn't. Rather than offering a carefully softened defense, she delivered a blunt opinion that quickly caught attention, precisely because it came from someone who could have chosen the easier path.
Yeah, you were the prince of a goddamn country who dressed up as a Nazi, and now you're trying to come back as the Pope?
She didn't deliver because there was nothing to deliver, was the criticism. You don't have it. There's nothing there. The remark echoed a point that critics had been making for some time. Remember that ranking, number 383? To them, it symbolized the gap between the expectations surrounding Meghan's projects and the results they ultimately achieved. That was exactly Kelly Osbourne's argument. Then she went a step further and said something that reportedly left even her own co-hosts momentarily silent.
Of course, it's easier to bet on yourself when, despite publicly failing repeatedly, whether it's Spotify or American Riviera Orchard or whatever, there's somebody waiting in the wings to give you another break because of the man you're married to, because of your proximity to
the contrast, as critics see it, is striking. A man once remembered for controversies that could have seriously damaged his reputation now presents himself as someone offering lessons on responsibility, compassion, and personal growth. To them, the gap between those two versions of Harry is the punchline at the center of the story. Kelly Osbourne's comments simply put that contrast into words, highlighting the discrepancy that many observers believe explains the public skepticism surrounding him.
The British royal family. Yeah, it's easy to bet on yourself. People keep giving you a chance despite the fact that you fail. The return on investment is not there. You lack the work ethic required to function in today's society where everybody is somebody.
This was never really about one disappointing show or one canceled podcast. The argument was always bigger than that. The comedians, critics, and commentators simply identified something that the palace seemed unable, or unwilling, to confront. You cannot successfully market yourself as the world's most relatable victim while living a life that appears far removed from the experiences of ordinary people. That telling Jimmy Carr, Chris Rock, and Kelly Osbourne didn't create the problem. They didn't damage the brand. They merely voiced what the numbers, reviews, and audience reactions were already suggesting. They weren't the scandal. They were the receipts that a brand built primarily on grievance can be powerful at first. It can generate attention, sympathy, and momentum. It might even help someone break away from an institution they no longer want to be part of. But critics argue that it's a strategy with limits. Sooner or later, audiences start asking what comes next, and that's where the real challenge begins. So who made the point most effectively? Was it Carr with his sharp one-liners, Chris Rock with his observations about perception and privilege, or Kelly Osbourne with her blunt assessment? That's the debate. One thing is certain. This conversation isn't disappearing anytime soon.